I'm Brian Wilson alongside Larry O'Connor.
The community of Tobytown is a historic community. It, in fact, has been said that it inspired the famous book Uncle Tom's Cabin. This is a community of really founded by free slaves. It's right off the Potomac River, off River Road, right up north of the city of Potomac, and they've always had a problem with transportation there. This has been a historically impoverished community. There's about 60 people who live there, and the Montgomery County Council have tried many different options, taxi vouchers, a private van that was supplied to the residents there that they could then manage their own shuttle service to mass transit. Neither of those options and other options have panned out, so now the Montgomery Council wants to set up a new ride-on bus program that takes the residents of Tobytown around various places of Montgomery County to the cost of about $400,000. They would pay fares, but the fares would only cover about 4%. Joining us right now is Montgomery Council member Roger Berliner. Have I set this up properly, sir?
You did great.
Great.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it. Thank you for that. So, as you can well imagine, of the 60 residents, it's estimated right now that about 45 riders per day would actually use this. And as you can well imagine, people are raising their eyebrows at the idea of a $400,000 mass transit project that accommodates 45 riders. Let me ask you one first basic question. It looks to me like you're stopping at various high schools, at the hospital, taking people all the way from Tobytown on River Road all the way to the Rockville Metro Station. It seems to me you'd save a lot more money if you really wanted to do something for the people who lived in Tobytown to just take them the 5 miles down River Road to the Potomac Shopping Center, where there's an already existing bus line to take you right to Rockville. Why not just do that?
Well, we looked at a lot of options, and we worked with the community, and we worked with our Department of Transportation. We came up with a route that, quite frankly, we think works, that takes them to the metro, which is so important, because if you want to get to work in an expeditious way, assuming Metro works and we can have that conversation, that's where you want to go.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is we already have an existing bus line 5 miles away from Tobytown. Why take them all the way to the Metro when you've already got that existing Metro bus line? It's the T2 route.
Well, partly you also want to get these people to their school sites. So you want to be able to get them to school. You want to be able to get them to
but don't we have school buses?
Hospitals.
Don't we have school buses doing that?
No, not actually from there, no.
There are no school bus routes I'm sorry, I've got different information. According to the minutes of the meeting that you had on April 19th.
Yes, I apologize. No, you're right about that. Right. So it is about getting parents there. It's about after school, because you don't have after school buses.
Well, actually, there are on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. There are after school buses.
Well, you are a pretty smart guy.
No, I'm reading the minutes of the meeting you attended, sir. You have this information.
That I actually conducted.
Well. If I could, let me just jump in here for a minute, because you're talking about a cost of $400,000 per year, right?
Yes.
All right, so that's an ongoing expense. $400,000. So if you were to take
everybody if we come up with a more cost-effective way to do this, we will do it.
Well, I've got an idea for you. Let's take 2 years of that. 2 years of that would more than buy a brand new car for every person who needs transportation out of that house, out of that area. I mean, if you got 45 people, you right there in 1 year, that's $8,888 per person to provide this bus service. Go 2 years, that's $16,000. You could buy them a nice new car. And you would save long term. You would save them a lot of money. You would save a lot of money long term.
I had a colleague that suggested that very thing. This is a community that actually doesn't want handouts, that does not want to be treated differently than any other community, that has a sense of dignity and a sense of pride. It is not looking for vouchers. It is not looking for gifts of cars. It is looking for a ride-on bus that serves other communities and wants comparable service to other communities.
Well, where do you draw the line? Because there are a lot of communities that don't have bus service right now. Are you going to offer the same kind of bus service to all these different communities that are not served right now by ride-on buses at an extremely expensive cost?
By noting the historicity with respect to this community. People that fled the Confederacy, swam across the Potomac River in 1875. And do I think, and does my council think, that we have a special responsibility to try and help these people get to where they have to get to? The answer is yes. So I said before on an interview in your program, not on your program, with one of your great reporters, that there are times when we feel like we have to be fiscally responsible, and there are times when we need to be socially responsible. On this occasion, we are giving more weight to being socially responsible, and it will cost us.
Because of things that happened in 1875.
This community was founded in 1875, and it's a community that has struggled. It had a time when it prospered, when there was agriculture and labor worked, and then in the 50s and 60s it began to struggle, and it has struggled ever since. So we feel, many of us, that we have a special responsibility, and I'm not going to debate, are there more cost-effective ways?
What about the responsibility of the taxpayer who doesn't believe this is perhaps a good expenditure of money?
So I feel a responsibility to the taxpayer, but there are times when I feel that the taxpayer dollars have to be spent in a way that are not, quote, cost-effective. Okay, I get it. It's not cost-effective.
But because they are the ancestors of slaves, many of the people there are the ancestors of slaves. You feel a special obligation. So
I do.
Okay, I understand. I'm not going to argue that point with you.
No, I had Uber walked in, and so we're going to have conversations with Uber. Uber walked in just a couple of days ago and said, "Councilmember Berliner, if we can be of assistance here," and I said, "We will look at that." But we've been working on this now for months. This is the best we could come up with that we felt was appropriate for this community, that we could do, that we worked with our Department of Transportation on. This was a route that they had actually established. We've expanded it so it's all-day service. And we've acquired a less expensive bus under a contract with the Jewish Council of Aging.
Yeah.
So we're going to change it so it looks like a ride-on bus, but it's a less expensive option than having a normal ride-on bus. So it's not like we are totally pushing aside any cost issues, but this was the best we could come up with, guys.
All right. Well, listen, I'm sure that the listeners have heard the arguments, and I'm sure the voters will determine whether this was the best as well. I just want to circle back to one thing. When you said that the community doesn't want a handout, how is this different than purchasing the new cars if the cost is the same? It is a handout, isn't it, by giving them this
it's
special...
how something feels, all right? I mean...
So you're basing public policy based on how these 45 people feel?
In part, yes.
Okay, good to know. And the people of Laytonsville, Brookville, Barnesville, Sugar Land, Good Hope, Jerusalem, all communities that are in very same situations who don't have this transportation, their feelings don't count.
We have not heard from them. We have not had this conversation. So I can't speak as to whether or not there is another community in our big county that faces trouble getting around.
We got to leave it there.
I doubt they have this combination of poverty and isolation and history, which is what makes this situation unique in our minds.
Well, and that's why we wanted to talk about it. It is a unique situation. And Councilmember Berliner, as always, we always finish our conversations by saying you are a forceful and passionate advocate for your position, and we really do appreciate you coming on and mixing it up with us, as you often do.
Yeah, well, this you guys mix it up pretty good.
Thank you, sir.
That's what we do.
It's 7:15. Thanks for joining us, Councilmember.